In a small African village, identical twin sisters, Tracy and Treasure, share the same face but live very different lives. Tracy, the rebellious elder, thrives on luxury and lies, while Treasure, the younger, believes in hard work and true love. When Tracy gets married to a wealthy man named Daniel, she convinces Treasure to impersonate her for a day, an innocent favor that spirals into a web of deception. What begins as a secret switch leads to heartbreak, betrayal, and a deep emotional journey that tests the strength of sisterhood and the meaning of true love. In the end, only one twin will win Daniel's heart, but both must face the consequences of the choices they've made. Sit back, relax, and find out what happened in this wonderful story. In a quiet village nestled between green hills and dusty roads, lived two identical twin sisters, Tracy and Treasure. Their resemblance was so striking that even their mother sometimes confused them. But while their faces were the same, their hearts and ways were worlds apart. Tracy, the elder by mere minutes, had long abandoned her tailoring skill, choosing instead to gallivant from one wealthy man to another. She believed a woman should enjoy life and not be tied down to one man. Treasure, however, was the opposite. Soft-spoken and full of grace, she lived in the bustling city, doing menial jobs and holding on to the hope of finding true love. Their father had passed away years ago, leaving behind a modest family house in the village, which Tracy and their aging mother shared. Treasure, though far away in the city, never missed calling her mother every weekend, checking on her and sending small tokens from her meager earnings. Despite the distance, the twins remained deeply connected. Little did they know that their lives were about to take a complicated twist that would shake the core of their sisterhood. One sunny afternoon, Tracy called Treasure, her voice filled with excitement. "Guess what? I'm getting married," she said gleefully. Treasure was shocked but happy for her sister. "Wow, that's great news. Who's the lucky man?" Tracy laughed lightly and described Daniel, a handsome, well-built, and rich young man who had swept her off her feet. "He's different, sis. I think I want to stay with this one," she confessed. Treasure was unable to attend the traditional marriage due to work commitments, but Tracy assured her everything went well. The groom's family was happy, and her mother was over the moon. Tracy had to remain at home due to tradition, as she wasn't allowed to follow Daniel until the white wedding. Excited and anxious, she looked forward to starting a new chapter. However, she had one more selfish plan to execute, one that would put her twin in a position she never imagined. Days before the white wedding, Treasure arrived in the village unexpectedly with all her luggage. Her mother and Tracy were surprised. Over late-night chats and laughter, Treasure revealed that life in the city had become unbearable. Jobs were hard to come by, rent was overdue, and hunger was real. Tracy, instead of mocking, hugged her tightly and promised to support her. Later that night, Tracy made a strange request. She wanted Treasure to help keep Daniel company the next day while she traveled to Abuja to meet another boyfriend who just arrived from abroad. Treasure gasped in shock and rebuked her. "You're married now, Tracy. You can't keep doing this." But Tracy pleaded, reminding her that their identical looks would make the deception seamless. Treasure resisted at first, but Tracy's persistence wore her down. Reluctantly, she agreed, not knowing it would change her life forever. The next morning, Tracy quietly sneaked out before sunrise. Their mother was the first to notice her absence and panicked. When Daniel arrived, confused and cheerful, expecting his bride-to-be, Treasure hid in her room. Their mother, worried about what Daniel might think, dressed Treasure in Tracy's clothes and forced her to go out and greet him. Treasure, visibly tense, played the role as best she could. The conversation was awkward, and Daniel noticed something felt different, but he didn't dwell on it. He left after a while, still unaware that he'd spent the afternoon with his fiancée's twin. Treasure, on the other hand, was consumed by guilt and anxiety. But the worst was yet to come. The wedding day was fast approaching, and Tracy was nowhere to be found. Her phone was switched off, and neither Treasure nor their mother could reach her. Treasure called and called, until finally Tracy picked up. "I'm not done with what I came to Abuja for. Please, just step in for me. You look just like me, nobody will notice." Treasure was stunned. "But this is your wedding," she cried. Tracy hung up, leaving Treasure and their mother in a whirlwind of fear, shame, and uncertainty. With heavy hearts, they knew there was no turning back. The village expected a wedding, and it had to go on. The morning of the white wedding was a blur of hurried preparations and heavy hearts. Dressed in a pristine white gown, Treasure stood before the altar, her hands trembling and her heart aching. Daniel beamed beside her, unaware of the switch. Guests clapped, music played, and vows were exchanged, between a man and a woman he believed was his bride. No one suspected the truth. Back at home, the mother paced restlessly. She couldn't shake off the guilt, but she prayed things would work out. Treasure, now officially married, returned with Daniel to his home. That night, he tried to be affectionate, but Treasure gently declined, making up excuses about being tired and overwhelmed. Daniel, understanding and patient, accepted without protest. In her heart, Treasure knew the lie was getting deeper, and escaping it might become impossible. Treasure tried to play the perfect wife. She cooked, cleaned, and kept Daniel company, but always avoided intimacy. Daniel noticed but chose not to complain. After all, he believed she was his wife, and maybe she just needed time. Treasure, meanwhile, wrestled with her emotions. She was falling in love with Daniel, and the guilt of deceiving him haunted her. Back in the village, her mother advised her to lie that she needed to go care for her sick mother to buy more time. Treasure relayed the story to Daniel, hoping for a brief escape, but he surprised her by insisting he would come along to care for her mother too. There was no backing out now. Daniel packed a small bag, and together they went to the village. At home, things were tense. Treasure began sleeping in her mother's room to avoid sharing a bed with Daniel. She claimed her mother needed her close. Daniel accepted, though his eyes now studied her more closely. He sensed something was off. This wasn't the same woman he had known before the wedding. She was gentler, more graceful, and more emotionally connected, yet distant in an unexplainable way. Treasure and her mother, afraid the truth would eventually surface, decided it was better to return to Daniel's home. Back there, Treasure resumed her duties, still withholding herself from him physically. The pressure mounted as she found herself thinking about him more and more, his kindness stirring emotions she hadn't anticipated. One afternoon, Treasure's phone buzzed. It was Tracy. She ordered her sister to meet her in a nearby hotel. They needed to switch again. When Treasure arrived, she pleaded with Tracy to stop playing games with marriage and stick with Daniel. "He's a good man, Tracy. You're lucky," she said. Tracy rolled her eyes. "I see the way you talk about him. You've fallen for my husband." Hurt by the accusation, Treasure kept quiet. They switched clothes and accessories once again. Tracy returned to Daniel's house, but her character betrayed her. She was rude, lazy, and overly demanding. Daniel was confused. How could the same woman who cooked and smiled yesterday now be harsh and indifferent today? Daniel began noticing the cracks. The woman he now lived with seemed to have a dual personality. One day she was sweet and kind, the next rude and careless. Even her cooking changed, and her attitude in bed became too aggressive. One night, he declined her advances, claiming he was tired. Tracy, frustrated, went to sleep annoyed. Meanwhile, at her mother's house, Treasure was consumed with thoughts of Daniel. She missed his calm presence, his soft laugh, his patience. Her mother watched her closely and saw it. Her daughter was in love. But what could be done now that she was living a lie? Days later, Daniel had a business errand in the village and decided to drop by Tracy's family house. He found only Treasure and their mother at home. With wide eyes and a smile, Treasure introduced herself. "I'm Treasure, Tracy's twin." Daniel's face lit up with surprise. "So it's true? Tracy always talked about her twin, but I never imagined you'd look this much alike." Their mother stood frozen, the air thick with tension. Daniel didn't seem suspicious, yet. He stayed a while, chatting freely. Treasure tried hard to hide her emotions, especially when Daniel praised her kindness, unaware she was the one he had grown to appreciate during those past weeks. After he left, Treasure collapsed on her bed, her heart racing. The truth was now dangerously close. Tracy called again, begging Treasure to stand in for her once more. She claimed she had an event she couldn't miss. Treasure hesitated. Her heart ached to see Daniel again, but guilt still gnawed at her. Against her better judgment, she agreed. They met at the usual hotel, switched clothes, and Treasure returned to Daniel's home. This time, Daniel felt it. The woman before him was the sweet, nurturing version again. He smiled more, engaged her in deeper conversations, and began asking about things they had done previously. Treasure, now more composed, flowed effortlessly. Her presence made the house feel warm. Daniel found himself falling for his wife all over again, but unknowingly, for the wrong sister. One afternoon, Treasure was trimming her nails in the sitting room. Daniel offered to help, smiling warmly as he gently filed her right thumb. That moment lingered in his mind. Later that night, Tracy came back for the usual switch. They changed outfits quietly, but this time, Daniel wasn't asleep. As Tracy lay beside him, her hand rested on his chest. Daniel's eyes opened slightly, observing the perfectly fixed, polished nails that weren't there earlier. He didn't say a word. Instead, he stared at the ceiling all night, replaying every switch, every odd behavior, every shift in mood. The truth began to form. The next morning, Daniel drove straight to the twins' home. Treasure and their mother were outside when he arrived. Without a word, Daniel walked straight to Treasure, gently took her hands, and stared at her fingernails. Then he turned to Tracy. "I always knew something was off," he said calmly, "but I trusted you." Tracy tried to talk, but Daniel raised his hand. "I don't need lies. I've figured it all out. And I know which one of you I truly fell in love with." Treasure burst into tears. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I never meant to hurt you." Tracy, unfazed, raised her voice. "You people have caged me long enough. I never wanted this marriage anyway." With that, she stormed inside. The days that followed were quiet but heavy. Treasure could barely eat. She cried often, tormented by regret. Their mother tried to console her, but she was inconsolable. Meanwhile, Tracy resumed her carefree life, jumping from one party to another, unbothered by the wreckage she left behind. One afternoon, Tracy appeared at Daniel's doorstep. She smiled and tried to charm him. "If you want, you can start a family with Treasure. She seems to like you more than she admits." Then she turned and left, tossing her hair with indifference. That moment, Daniel knew exactly what he needed to do. He drove straight to the twins' house. Treasure came out, surprised. "I've made my choice," Daniel said. "It's you, Treasure. You were the one I truly married in heart and spirit. You're the one I want." Tears of relief streamed down her cheeks. Without another word, she walked into his embrace, and together they went home, for real this time. Treasure and Daniel began their new life with honesty at its core. Though the shadow of the past lingered, they both agreed to move forward. Daniel admired Treasure's dedication to making their home peaceful. For the first time, she cooked without fear, laughed without guilt, and slept beside the man she truly loved. Daniel, still adjusting, appreciated her gentleness. Every evening, they talked about the confusion, about the pain, and about love. He assured her that though the journey had been strange, he never felt more certain. They planted flowers together in the compound, symbolic of the fresh beginning they were nurturing. News of the switch slowly began spreading in whispers across the village. Some neighbors gossiped behind closed doors, others applauded Daniel's decision. Tracy, unfazed, strutted around confidently, claiming she wasn't made for the boring life of marriage. "Let her have him," she said to anyone who asked. "There are richer men in Lagos." Treasure ignored the whispers and focused on building a loving home. Her mother visited often, helping around the house, and advising her. "Love him gently," she would say. "You didn't get him by force, you got him by grace." Those words stuck with Treasure. She wanted to earn Daniel's love daily, not with deception, but with truth. Weeks later, Tracy ran into trouble with one of her rich lovers in Abuja. The man's wife discovered their affair, and a scandal broke out. Beaten and disgraced, Tracy returned to the village with a bruised face and a broken ego. Their mother was furious. "Can you now see the end of waywardness?" she yelled. Tracy, in tears, packed a few things and went to stay in a friend's house nearby. Treasure felt pity for her but said nothing. Daniel kept his distance. That night, Treasure wrote in her journal, praying for her sister's healing. She still hoped for her twins' redemption. Treasure's heart remained soft despite all that had happened. She secretly visited Tracy, bringing food and medicine. "You don't have to like me, but you're still my sister," she said. Tracy looked away, ashamed. For once, she saw the woman she had mocked for years as someone stronger. Treasure's kindness slowly began to melt Tracy's hardened heart. She started showing up at their mother's house to help with chores and even apologized to her. The village began to notice the shift in Tracy's behavior. Perhaps there was hope after all. One quiet evening, Daniel brought home a gift box. Inside was a tiny, golden necklace with the inscription, "Forever." Treasure opened it with trembling hands. "I know it's been a wild ride," he said softly. "But I want forever with you. No more confusion, no more switches. Just us." Treasure burst into tears and hugged him tightly. "I love you, Daniel," she whispered. For the first time, the words felt whole. No lies, no secrets. That night, they lit a small candle, prayed together, and sealed their love, not with pretense, but with peace. It was the beginning of their forever. Deception may open doors, but only truth keeps them open. In love, in family, and in life, integrity and honesty will always outshine lies. Tracy and Treasure's story reminds us that our choices carry consequences, but even in the mess of mistakes, redemption and true love are still possible, when we choose to do the right thing. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Guess what? I am cooking something really great that you wouldn't want to miss. So subscribe now and join our family. Give this video a thumbs up and share to your family and friends. See you soon.